adverse to American interests, when it's adverse to Donald Trump's political direction for the government. I think it's terrible.
I would just say it goes both ways. OK, there is information that is leaked under a president of any party, and the interests of news organizations are not. I take issue with the way that you're setting that up, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Far-right MAGA loyalist Scott Jennings appeared on Kacie Hunt's show to talk about the subpoenas the Donald Trump administration has issued against the New York Times. As usual, Scott Jennings complained that his political hero, Donald Trump, is being treated unfairly. We're going to watch clips from this panel discussion on Kacie Hunt's show featuring Scott Jennings, and I'll also share my thoughts along the way. Let's get into it together.
Let's watch what Jay Clayton had to say about these subpoenas. He was pressed about this by Ron Wyden, who has been a longtime advocate of free speech and a critic of the powers of the national security state. Here's Ron Wyden, Senator from Oregon, questioning Jay Clayton. Watch.
So let me ask you this. It's not even clear that the subpoenas that you signed followed the administration's policy, which requires the government to first make all reasonable attempts to obtain information from other sources. What specific actions did you take before you signed the subpoenas?
I can tell you that in all of these cases, and not just one person, and this is the way I operate. I operate by asking my team, what do you think? Any action in this regard, you can be assured that it was a consultative exercise with the career prosecutors in my office.
Scott Jennings, do you think if the government had a reasonable issue with someone leaking about the security problems on Air Force One, that the government did everything that they should have done in advance of issuing these subpoenas?
Well, I would have no way of knowing that other than to say, I think the bureaucracy leaks against Donald Trump and his administration all the time. I think national security information, classified information, is leaked to the media when it's adverse to American interests, when it's adverse to Donald Trump's political direction for the government. I think it's terrible.
I would just say it goes both ways. OK, there is information that is leaked under a president of any party, and the interests of news organizations are not. I take issue with the way that you're setting that up, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
You take issue with me stating the fact that the federal bureaucracy frequently leaks classified and or national security information against.
I'm saying they do it against all presidents.
Donald Trump. Okay, well, look.
And the administration also leaks investigative information in this administration about their political opponents and who they're investigating.
I take issue with the idea that somehow the federal bureaucracy is equivalently adverse to Democratic presidents as Republicans, particularly this one. So I take their point that they're upset when this government that supposedly answers to the executive branch is leaking national security information. I agree with what you said. If people are leaking national security information, they should be held accountable. And I also agree with what you said. In this case, the system appears to have worked. And I give a wide latitude to journalists in the First Amendment, but you have to admit, it happens pretty frequently when Donald Trump is the president that somehow
he's been the president quite a bit.
And in both of his terms, the bureaucracy has fought against him, worked against him, and leaked against him. And I understand the impulse to want to put a stop to it, particularly when his safety is in jeopardy. I read today that the Secret Service director said this year they have already investigated 10,000 threats to protectees of the Secret Service, which includes the president, which is a 40% increase over last year. So do I take his safety when it comes to this plane seriously when we found out that Iran was trying to assassinate him over there? Yeah. And if there's people in the government putting him in jeopardy, I think we ought to take that seriously.
Brian Stelter, I want to bring you back in here. I'm happy to, if you have a response to the conversation we've been having here at the table. I'm also interested to know where you think this goes.
I think so far this year, in January, we saw officials knocking on the door of a Washington Post reporter and seizing her devices as part of a leak investigation. We've also seen subpoena fights, mostly in secret, involving the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post. There were attempts to subpoena journalists and compel them to testify both from the Post and the Journal. Those subpoenas were eventually withdrawn, just like today's subpoenas against the New York Times were withdrawn. But you add it all up, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. There could be other secret court fights about subpoenas that we don't even know about. I know many newsrooms like CNN's are on high alert about this because of what we've seen in the last 6 months. So Kacie, my takeaway is this is going to continue. The government's going to continue to do this, not as a last step, but as a first step, not as a last resort, but as a first step. They're going to continue to aggressively try to hunt out leakers by targeting reporters. So this is going to continue to be a threat to newsrooms. But so far, we're seeing newsrooms do all the right things in response, pushing back aggressively, having lawyers spend a lot of money and a lot of time fighting these, but defending the First Amendment. And So far, the stress test is being passed.
And let's just underscore, of course, that the point of what we do in newsrooms and the point of all of the things that you just underscored there, Brian, is about the audience. Yeah. It's about the American people. It's about what they have a right to know in terms of how to make decisions about who they ultimately think should be given power in our democracy. Brian Stelter, Ellie Honig, thank you both very much. The rest of my panel is going to stand by. Coming up next here in the arena, we've got new...
Far-right MAGA loyalist Scott Jennings appeared on Kacie Hunt's show to talk about the subpoenas the Donald Trump administration has issued against the New York Times. As usual, Scott Jennings complained that his political hero, Donald Trump, is being treated unfairly. We're going to watch clips from this panel discussion on Kacie Hunt's show featuring Scott Jennings, and I'll also share my thoughts along the way. Let's get into it together. One thing CNN and the other cable news networks almost never do, and I really wish they would, is challenge claims like this in real time. Scott Jennings throws out a number like 10,000 threats against Trump and members of his administration, and I wish Kacie Hunt had simply said, okay, let's verify that. Let's get someone from the Secret Service or a spokesperson from the administration on the record to confirm that number. Scott Jennings can easily throw out a statistic, but that doesn't mean it's true. We have no idea if he's backing it up with real evidence or if he's just making it up. And if I were sitting on that panel, I'd also remind everyone that Scott Jennings previously made questionable claims about speaking with Mitch McConnell. So why should anyone automatically trust everything that comes out of his mouth? Of course, Scott Jennings would roll his eyes, smirk at the camera, and act offended, but that's too bad. When it comes to his argument that there are somehow far more leaks under Donald Trump than under Democratic presidents, my response would be, so what? Scott Jennings spends almost every appearance on Kacie Hunt's show or Abby Phillips' show saying, yeah, but what about Biden? Fine, then let's talk about Biden. Let's pull up the actual numbers. How many leaks happened during the Biden administration? How many happened during the Obama administration? Since Scott Jennings loves asking, what about Biden? Then let's answer that question with real facts. CNN is a news organization, so why not ask the control room to pull up the data and fact-check them live on air? Show the audience the statistics instead of letting unsupported claims go unchallenged. They almost never do that, and honestly, it drives me crazy, and I bet it frustrates a lot of you as well. This is Scott Jennings' playbook. He throws out claims, invents numbers, and presents opinions as if they're proven facts. He pushes the idea that the Trump administration is facing endless leaks because some secret group inside the government is working against Donald Trump. He doesn't even have to say the words deep state because that's clearly the story he's trying to sell. But here's the reality. Donald Trump isn't some political outsider anymore. He is the president. The Republican Party controls Congress, and conservatives have enormous influence over the Supreme Court. If you're in charge of the government, you can't keep pretending there's some mysterious outside force secretly running everything against you. That story simply doesn't match reality. It's a political fantasy that Scott Jennings and many other MAGA supporters repeat on Kacie Hunt's show, Abby Phillips' show, and other CNN programs. It makes for good talking points, but that doesn't make it true. Now I want to hear from you. Do you agree with what Scott Jennings said during this debate? Do you think there have really been more leaks under Trump than under previous presidents? Do you think Scott Jennings was presenting facts, or was he just making claims without evidence? And what about his statement that there have been 10,000 threats? Do you believe that's a real number backed by proof, or do you think it's another unsupported claim similar to his past comments about speaking with Mitch McConnell? Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more.